Few things can force you to confront a higher power or question the value of life more than when you're caught in a trauma that could cost you your life.
It's fate. If it's your day, it's your day.
A drug deal goes bad and shatters a man's body. But is it his time? And a new day is snuffed out in a ditch. But will it be his last? And a winter's ride might break a tender heart. Will her prayers save her?
You're in God's hands.
If ever there was a time to pray or question your life and a higher power, it's surely when you're struggling with your possible last breath, caught in the sudden jaws of a medical trauma.
Maybe this guy is the exception that we could miraculously save.
You can't describe the feeling of when you bring someone back from, the dead, basically.
We think of ourselves as bodies that have spirits, when in fact we are spirits that have bodies.
Some things you just see are determined from the beginning.
But are they? It's a question that now hangs over a young life. Patrick, a God-fearing man whose life nonetheless has been embroiled in neighborhood drug wars for too long, was gunned down 2 hours ago. The assailant fled.
There are 2 gunshot wounds.
2, and where were they?
One went into the right shoulder, and the other one went into the abdomen.
Okay, so his GCS would be 3, you'd say?
Yeah, right now 3.
A GCS of 3. On the Glasgow coma scale, that means Patrick is already deep in a coma, and he may not emerge. Once shot, Patrick tried to flag cars for help, but no one stopped. He had to drag himself to a local hospital, but his injuries were so massive that he needed to be rushed to Sunnybrook Regional Trauma Centre in Toronto. Shot once across the chest and once in the abdomen, trauma fellow Fernando Spencer has to quickly learn the details and plot out a course of action, or Patrick could die in the trauma room.
Yes, basically he has 2 wounds caused by a gunshot wound in the chest. Our concern is that in the mediastinum, that's the middle of the chest, we have a lot of important vessels and the trachea. And our concern is exactly that the bullet may cross the mediastinum.
Most likely an entering wound here and an exit wound here. Nice to meet you.
All Dr. Spencer has to go on at this point are the wounds.
I would like to see these wounds.
Most gunshot victims need surgery. For Patrick, the question is where and on which organs. What, in other words, was the path of each bullet?
The right lung, there is some blood, about less than 100 cc coming out of the back.
With bruised and collapsed lungs, Dr. Spencer thinks the midline path of one bullet might be choking off the functions of the lungs and heart, draining Patrick's life away. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles from the trauma room, another man of faith has met one of his greatest challenges. Phil, a schoolteacher, started his day early with a leisurely motorbike ride on a rural road he knows well. But it ended on a road he did not expect to take.
I remember about the last 1/10 of a second, I saw about 1/3 of a pickup truck fender. I don't remember being conscious, except for a brief little flash, getting onto the air ambulance. You look up at ceiling tiles and occasionally see faces with masks on and caps. Bits of equipment go by with which you have 0 or less familiarity.
Just getting some blood.
Have you guys shot the spines yet?
Yeah, we just have to do 2 laterals.
Trauma
Oh,
team
okay.
leader Lorraine
Just really
Tremblay
like
has to
that.
find out whether Phil can move or even feel his limbs. If he can't, he could have suffered a paralyzing injury. will send his life on a whole new course. Trauma team leader Homer Tien arrives and has to quickly get up to speed on Patrick's wounds. He can't perform any surgery without a view of what's happened, so x-rays are the next urgent step.
We didn't log roll yet before go to OR.
Within the chest or even in the abdomen, there's a lot of structures that, if hit, will become immediately life-threatening or immediately fatal. So certainly there's an urgency to hearing that you have a gunshot wound to the chest.
Yet Patrick's blood pressure is failing while his heart rate increases. It's a deadly double combination, signaling blood loss that with each passing moment can be catastrophic. Caught up in drug wars for years, it's not this man's first time being shot. Yet just months ago, Patrick began consulting his Bible in earnest, trying to find the strength to pull his life back from the edge. He's cheated death once before, but can he do it again?
Death is an everyday occurrence here at Sunnybrook Hospital.
One team member few people see in the trauma room is the chaplain, who counsels families and survivors. People like Craig, a veteran medic, who's found a way to help victims of trauma through the lens of a higher power.
Not only do I have 102 beds among 4 wards, I also have staff as well.
I think a lot of us are of the same thought that it's fate. If it's your day, it's your day. If you fall from standing, you're gonna die. If it's your day. If you're hit by a car and it's not your day, you're gonna live. I can't explain it, I truly can't. Whatever higher being there is, if there's a higher being, is the one that controls that.
Craig's on standby to potentially counsel families of dire cases like Patrick's.
I've most definitely had people that said, I've met God. I had one person tell me that she's knocked on the mansion of heaven. She wasn't sure whether she should go in or not, and she didn't. I've talked to people who felt they've been pushed away from the spot they're standing on before a speeding car came crashing in there. I've seen people who reject God because of traumas that they've been in. You know, a just God would not have done this to me.
But will Patrick ever get the chance to ask this himself?
Let's just take all of these off. I just want to have a really good look for wounds here. Okay. Can you move your legs?
At the moment, all the trauma team knows is that the path of the bullets have caused massive blood loss, and the ultrasound confirms it.
Good, so let's just do a quick chest, abdominal, pelvis, and then we'll go up to the OR. Okay.
What they don't know and need to find out fast is which vital organs are leaking this blood, and can they stop it in time?
Just do a chest, supine abdomen, and pelvis.
Sure. Okay, chest X-ray.
If miracles are needed, it will come down now to Dr. Tien and his team as they start to prep Patrick for surgery.
X-ray abdomen.
No, he's got a lot of blood in there. So we have a gunshot wound here that we'd like to bring up. Laparotomy for sure, possible thoracotomy.
Dr. Tien has made his surgical plan clear, and it's extensive.
He's stable, but he's got a lot of blood in his belly, so I don't want him to become unstable. But
Moments from now, he will do what few surgeons would choose to do. He must cut into almost every major area of Patrick's body, the chest, throat, and abdomen, to find and repair the path of the bullet's damage.
Yes, sometimes it's very difficult. Sometimes you think that, yes, it's the day or not that the patient can die.
Patrick's heart rate continues to climb, so much so that he's now on the edge of a cardiac arrest. This means Dr. Tien won't have the luxury of waiting for x-rays. With no time to spare, he'll have to see them in OR to assess what the bullets have hit, and if there's anything at all he can do to save this man's life before it's too late. Nothing else makes us question the meaning of life and the role of a higher power more than when that life is on the brink of being lost. And every day and night at Toronto's Sunnybrook Regional Trauma Centre, Canada's largest pastoral services is on hand. helping families and survivors deal with these questions in their darkest hour.
The ability to help people through difficult times, I don't tell them how to get through, but be able to walk with them in their journey during traumas or during their pain, and helping them through the difficult times is really the basic part of Christian ministry.
An hour ago, 26-year-old Patrick was brought to Sunnybrook's Regional Trauma Center, a victim of the city's escalating drug turf. A young father, Patrick's family may yet need Craig's help. Shot twice by a fleeing assailant, Patrick must have emergency surgery to discover and repair suspected massive damage to vital organs in his chest and abdomen. Fighting bullet wounds that should have killed him by now, he's been rushed to surgery in a desperate attempt to save his life. And he goes into this surgery with massive blood loss and collapsed lungs.
The main concern that we went right away is because he's got a gunshot wound through his abdominal cavity.
For those 3 doctors, yeah.
So he's going to get an operation, but the gunshot wound to his chest seems to have gone through the midline, which is very dangerous.
Dangerous because all it takes is one bullet across the midline of the chest to threaten the vital functions of the heart and the breathing capacity of the trachea and the lungs.
Is X-ray here?
Generally, we never go to look for the bullet. We are going to look for the damage caused by that.
Trauma surgeon Homer Tien needs all the help he can get. They've rushed Patrick here without doing a needed CT. Instead, they must rely on X-rays and their own exploratory skills to bring Patrick back from the brink.
God's action in a trauma unit isn't a miraculous thing. It is everybody functioning as creators in the process of saving people's lives.
These ideas are not out of the ordinary for Phil, another man of faith. His trauma team is on the hunt for spinal injury that could be catastrophic for him. Hours ago, an early morning motorbike ride ended horribly wrong for Phil when this school teacher was hit by a pickup truck.
We were active, we were skiers, we go on the snowmobile, we do all kinds of things. What if the helmet didn't work? What if he was bashed up so badly that he would be frustrated with his life? How would we deal with that?
When people come in, especially through trauma, it is the most trying and difficult time, and they're very vulnerable.
What if he wasn't Phil? What if he didn't know me?
And very often people who come through something like a devastating trauma, and on the other end of that come out bigger, more mature, better people who meet their potential. A lot of them are in wheelchairs.
Is that the fate that awaits Phil? Life in a wheelchair or worse? Dr. Tremblay needs to find this out. While she awaits the arrival of the orthopedics fellow, she's got to arrange CT scans of Phil's spine and head.
I have one trauma that needs CT and L spine.
Meanwhile, a large OR theater upstairs has the full surgical trauma team in high gear. Gunshot victim Patrick is prepped for surgery, while Dr. Tien reviews one last time the only images he's got to work with before he leads the team on a life-saving mission.
It looks like a big pulmonary contusion there. And so we may try putting another chest.
A large pulmonary contusion. It's a bruising of the lungs that could be limiting oxygen to Patrick's brain and body. With massive blood loss sustained already, Patrick could be plunging into a danger zone of brain damage. But that's the least of his problems.
Basically, he has 2 wounds caused by a gunshot wound in the chest, one in each side of the chest. Our concern is that in the mediastinum, that's the middle of the chest, the bullet may cross the mediastinum.
The team knows one bullet was shot across Patrick's abdomen, filling it with blood. But it's the second bullet that has them worried.
Jackson, please.
Because I am a little worried about the chest.
A bullet shot across Patrick's midline, hitting potentially not one, but 3 vital organs: lungs, trachea, heart.
Very disturbing, actually. Just a minute, guys.
Joined now by trauma surgeon Talat Chugtai to assist, the team knows it cannot open Patrick's chest without causing more damage. So they focus instead on what they can do, and that's stemming the blood loss and damage in his abdomen. It's the best chance they've got to save this man's life.
Some patients make it despite, horrendous injuries or disease, and other patients who you think should come through it do not. And that makes you think that there's some other reason, some other force.
Back in the trauma room, Phil has x-rays done, just as orthopedics fellow Dr. Charles Thompson arrives to do an initial assessment of just how bad this school teacher's injuries are.
This guy's got multiple T-spine fractures, motorcycle versus car, about 6:30 this morning. Completely neurologically intact. It's got tenderness over his upper T-spine, corresponding to where the fractures are. They look like mostly bodies that are crushed.
Okay.
Both his shoulders hurt. He's got a broken clavicle and a broken scapula on this side. This one, there's no crepitus at all, but I've shot bilateral shoulders anyways.
Okay.
Abrasions, but no other joint in place.
Okay.
I never did a C-spine CAT scan that I could find.
Okay.
So I'm going to re-scan his whole spine.
Okay.
They don't have recons.
X-ray.
Phil will need more scans to determine if deadly bone fragments are pushing into his spine, causing paralysis that could rob him of the ability to ever walk again. It's this next step that will determine the course for the rest of his life. Whether it's chance or a grand plan that seals our fate, the shock of trauma, if we survive, can open our minds to wonder. At Toronto's Sunnybrook Regional Trauma Centre, the largest centre in Canada, clergy are keenly aware of the kinds of wrenching thoughts and questions that hit trauma victims and their families.
That sometimes bad things happen to good people.
One good man, Phil, is in Sunnybrook's trauma center after being airlifted from 100 miles away. T-boned by a truck early in the morning while on his motorbike. All Phil can do now is wait and wonder if he'll ever get on a bike again, or walk at all, while the trauma team plots their next step.
What would it be like if Phil's brain was damaged?
Is anything hurting besides your back? Your shoulder?
No.
No?
I remember at one point realizing that I was badly enough hurt that I wasn't going to be worrying about my supply teacher. That was a sort of a point where this must be very serious.
Push my hand away. Pull your hand towards your face.
Phil can move, but the possibility he suffered spinal fractures could yet cause him paralysis. It's what Dr. Charles Thompson and the team have to find out.
Good.
We're going to give you a dose of some morphine by your intravenous, make you feel better.
I bet it does.
After, we got to repeat the CAT scan to get a better picture of your back and your shoulder.
Okay.
Then we'll get you on a softer bed upstairs, okay?
Phil can at least feel things, and that's good. But it's no guarantee he'll continue to feel in moments or hours' time. No guarantee his life won't change forever.
Everybody has their own purpose, and everybody's here for a certain amount of time, and you have to be comfortable, I think, in accepting that you can only do what you can do.
Okay, give it to me. Give it to me.
For trauma team fellow Dr. Alamadi, even the seemingly less serious traumas can go dangerously wrong, as though fate or a higher power was against all efforts. Moments ago, trauma center doors opened to EMS staff, bringing in Barbara, a 61-year-old grandmother of 3, who spent the afternoon enjoying a Sunday snowmobile ride, when she suddenly went off course and hit a tree.
You've been treated for breast cancer before?
Yes, right here.
Okay. And are you on any medication right now?
Yeah, I take tamoxifen. Hello, sweetie. Yeah, I'm here. Hi, my name's Johnny. I'm a nurse who is working here, okay? Oh. Are you doing all right? Yeah. Do you know where you are? Some hospital, Sunnybrook, baby. Perfect. You're going to move you over to the stretcher, okay?
It's okay, Barb. It's okay.
Sure.
That's right outside. Looking at you and asking you questions. Stay still. We're gonna cut everything off to see what injuries you have on you.
Okay, I'm sorry, sweetie.
Okay.
Do you have any loss of consciousness? Like were you aware?
Maybe a second or two. I don't remember hitting the tree. I don't remember my helmet flying off.
I see.
But when I was laying in the snow, I knew what happened.
Any chest pain?
No.
Or tummy pain?
No.
All right.
I mean, it's a little tender there, but it's not anything I can't take.
Files and we can remove them.
No.
Hi, ma'am. What's your name?
The obvious concern may be head or spine injury, but an odd symptom quickly emerges. Her heart rate is high, and it's unlikely that it's caused by her medication. Her rate is so high, in fact, that she could at any moment be thrown into a cardiac arrest. And Dr. Alamadi must find out why, or risk losing this breast cancer survivor.
30, between 25 and 30.
Phil's now en route to CT. Moments from now, the team and Phil will learn if he sustained brain injury or spinal damage that could radically alter his life forever, confining him to a wheelchair.
Just let me know, okay, if you're having any pain. We already got some pain medication. Now we're gonna go for a CT scan. We're gonna make sure that you're not having any pain.
The scans show rib and shoulder fractures, but it's the presence of spinal fractures that mean Phil will need urgent surgery to repair. But he's got reason to feel lucky. He may yet have the chance to walk again. Gunned down in a neighborhood drug war just hours ago. Patrick is now fighting for his life in surgery as trauma surgeons struggle to repair damage caused by 2 bullet wounds that ripped through his chest and abdomen. Patrick's led a life on the edge. He may yet have a chance to go straight, but only if Dr. Tien and his team can save him. Well into their 3rd hour of a difficult surgery, even if Patrick makes it through OR, each passing moment brings with it the risk of a deadly infection that could prevent this man from coming out alive.
If they survive the OR and then the post-operative care period, they're at risk for some potentially very serious infections.
Please. Jackson, please.
Can you pack the small bowel towards the right side?
Yeah.
And have a large. Because I am a little worried about the chest, but if he becomes unstable, we'd have to.
No, he's been good.
The team finds something they rarely do. Very high caliber bullets were used, destroying major organs in the abdomen.
It's amazing that one bullet can do all that, eh? Like,
yes. Quite a bit of
it is amazing, actually.
Whoever shot Patrick clearly wanted him dead.
very disturbing, actually.
That's a long?
The caliber of the bullet was quite large and produced a lot of damage, internal damage.
Patrick's surgeons have managed to bring him back from the brink. He may yet get his second chance of cheating death, but only if intensive care can help him fight deadly infection, his next battle. And even then, he may never be the same again.
I always say, you better go and pray. Thanks to your guardian angel. Somebody's definitely watching out for you. Thanks to your guardian angel.
I don't think God causes us to suffer in order that we grow, but I do think that suffering can produce growth and maturity and new kinds of help that we didn't know existed.
Growth and maturity are not new for Barbara. At 61, she's a breast cancer survivor of a high-grade tumor. She's already had her first chance cheating death.
I'm going to take this tape off your forehead. Don't move your neck.
Long reliant on prayer, she'll need to again. Moments ago, she was brought to trauma after a sunny Sunday's snowmobile ride went horribly wrong. While waiting for x-rays to investigate fractures, the team at least is relieved Barbara's alert. She's shaking in shock or cold and has a mysterious and potentially catastrophically high heart rate that threatens to plunge her into a heart attack.
It was really worrying me. She could have an element of contusion to the heart muscles.
Could Barbara be on the road to a silent cardiac bleed before the trauma team's very eyes? Meanwhile, a 15-year-old is about to take a journey into trauma she could never have expected when her evening began.
Are you having any trouble breathing? Do you have pain in your tummy?
No, my leg.
Your leg? Okay.
Yeah.
How about your neck? No?
Okay, sweetie. It's okay. My foot.
Like many teens, Nicole is more preoccupied with her social life than her school life. Grounded by her father, Nicole found herself pacing her 7th-floor apartment bedroom, the enticements on the other side of her cell phone to join friends just too irresistible to pass up. So she made an audacious move to escape and could now pay the price with her life.
So complaints of pelvic pain, back pain, and what hurts?
We're gonna look after you, don't worry.
Nicole, my name's Ali. I'll get you some medication for pain so that you're more comfortable. Okay, hold on. Relax. Pull my mask off. I can't do much for you, okay? Try not to...
Move your left toes.
I can't.
Do you feel this? Do you feel this? Do you feel me touching you? Yeah? Does that hurt?
Nicole is in a panic, a frequent sign of brain injury, and her movements are very dangerous, possibly causing irreparable harm if she suffered a fractured spine or broken back.
I don't want that.
Okay, good. Give me some
Get up,
fentanyl,
please.
50 fentanyl.
No.
Okay, just
Nicole, put your head down. No. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that.
But Dr. Chugtai and his team can't even find out what Nicole's damaged, nor determine if she'll need surgery, with her so combative and alarmed. Anesthesiologist Ali Abbas must quickly restrain the teenager.
Okay, Nicole, listen to the doctor, okay? Listen to the doctor.
Nicole, just take some deep breaths, okay? Deep breath.
The pain in Nicole's back is a concern for the team. They must try to keep her still and get her to CT as soon as possible to see what damage she suffered.
Did you fall on your legs? Is that what happened? When you fell, you landed on your feet? Yeah?
Ow.
Sure, she's got a mid-shaft tibial and fibula fracture of the left shin, which is open, so ideally needs to be fixed within 6 hours.
Nicole, just relax. Okay?
Yeah, she did.
Just relax. If you scream and shout, we cannot help you, okay? Nicole, do you understand me? We're all here to help you.
The obvious injury, she has an open fracture of her leg. She just landed on her legs, it seems, after the fall. And the leg she's gonna have to have an operation for sure today.
Okay.
She was very combative, and she needs to go for imaging.
She was being given some sedation to try and take care of her agitation, and then she became obtunded. And she's at risk of losing her airway, and having her in the CT scanner and not being able to clearly monitor her from this distance just puts her at risk. So to just take all those factors right out of the equation, intubate her, ventilate her, don't have to worry about the airway. She's not going to move. We'll get the imaging, get everything done. If everything's good, we can take that tube out.
Okay, we're going to put you off to sleep now, okay?
Okay.
The team will intubate Nicole and put her on a ventilator which will breathe for her. Only then can she undergo detailed CT scans that could detect more extensive damage to her back or other bones than the team has anticipated. Chaplains and grief counselors who work in medical trauma centers day in and day out believe every human being has a spirit. And when a trauma happens, it's not only the body that's damaged or hurt, but the spirit as well.
We're all spiritual people. Like, it doesn't matter what religion, denomination, or no denomination whatsoever. We all have spiritual needs and spiritual inside us. Trauma is one of the ways that people really find out how spiritual they are, or realize that there's a vacuum or void in their life. And a lot of people end up speaking to us because they need to fill that vacuum, or they have questions in regards to, you know, what was this hole here that I've been trying to fill with drugs or alcohol? They've been trying to fill it with something and nothing works. And spirituality is the understanding of yourself, or the understanding of others and God.
And some spirits are taken away. One person at risk is 61-year-old Barbara. Flown in from the snow belt outside of Toronto, she suffered a likely broken back when her snowmobile crashed into a tree. But that's not what this trauma team is really worried about.
Alright, Barbara, I'm going to be feeling down your back, okay? Let me know where it hurts. Okay, that's fine,
TL junction.
Okay, TL junction. Over there?
Oh,
there's it. So on lumbar. Okay, all right.
Over here?
Okay, that's fine. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Oh, do you want to give her some?
Barbara's heart rate is escalating, and the team is desperate to find out why, before her heart bleeds to death or shuts down.
Her heart rate was abnormally high. It's not just a heart rate of treated hypothyroidism. It's really a heart rate of cardiac contusion, 190 to 100.
Dr. Alamadi has x-rays to confirm spinal and rib fractures, but he needs to get Barbara to CT to see if she suffered a cardiac contusion, a bruising and possible bleed to her heart.
We'll go to the CT. It will take around 10 to 15 minutes finishing the CT scans. Okay? Okay. Thank you. Bye.
But before he can get her there, he makes a fateful move.
Do you want to see your husband? Will that help you a little bit? Or would you rather
You want to see him?
back?
You want to see him?
Sure.
Okay, please, let him come in.
He invites Barbara's husband into the trauma room.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. No, she's fine. She could have any fracture at the back. We'll do a CT scan to make sure that there's no fracture. What's worrying us, only her heart rate is high.
Did she tell you she just had her thyroid test the other day? But there's no results.
No result yet?
No.
Okay.
At last, a possible clue, a thyroid dysfunction. Dr. Alamadi thinks this could be the missing piece to the puzzle of Barbara's life-threatening heart rate. Still, a contusion can't be ruled out, so Barbara is still bound for a CT scan.
They're worried because your heart rate is high. But that's nothing. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah. Good, don't be. You're in good hands. Yeah.
You're in God's hands, which is the best.
It's the best trauma team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think I'm alive because I went to church today.
If ever the folly of youth needed the protection of a higher force, it's surely when a young girl's life is on the edge. Earlier tonight, 16-year-old Nicole plunged nearly 7 stories in a botched attempt to escape a grounding by her father to meet up with friends. Now in CT, trauma team leader Talat Chugtai has to find out what Nicole's damaged.
It's okay, no free fluid?
Well, it's tiny and cul-de-sac.
Yeah, that's okay. She's female.
That she is.
So we do have a spine fracture.
Okay. L1.
L1.
3.
So L1, L3. They look stable though, right? The spine fractures?
Yeah.
On the lumbar spine, there's 2 vertebrae that are fractured, L1 and L3. They seem to be stable in terms of not impinging on the spinal cord, and neurologically she's intact, so probably it'll be non-operative management for that. And with regards to the leg, orthopedics has seen the patient and graded the open fracture to be a low-grade open fracture, so it'll probably be done first thing in the morning. She broke her fall, or maybe didn't fall 7 and somehow hung on to something and then fell less than 7 stories. Or the impact, the force was absorbed in the bony structures such as the leg and the spine, and the forces weren't transmitted to the internal organs. So lucky for sure.
Whether Nicole will get the chance to grow from her trauma is yet unknown. But for Phil, recovering now from back surgery, he knows his life and his outlook on life have forever changed.
The doctors and nurses, the people who've seen injuries like Phil's, everybody that we ran into was amazed that the way that he was hit and the speed at which he was going and the truck was going, and the fact that he was on a motorcycle, that he was alive. Then when he took 2 steps a week later, after having his back operated on, a lot of people were amazed.
5 weeks ago, if somebody said, "And our prayers are with you," it may have made me feel a little uncomfortable. But now when somebody says, "And our prayers are with you," or "We're praying for you," I think the rate of my recovery gives me enough support to say, you know what, I don't care if it works on anybody else. It has clearly worked on me.
Considering what happened in the accident and the expectations of all the people that we met, this just seems very miraculous.
Like Phil, Barbara is convinced of the power of prayer. But she's not out of the woods yet. The team knows she may have a thyroid dysfunction that pushes her heart rate abnormally high. But they still have to find out with tests like CAT scans to be certain.
Get your arm, cover your arms so you won't be cold.
Oh,
Put your arms down. Here you go. That's it. Try not to move. You're going to scan your neck, chest, and the pelvis, okay?
We're looking for injury in the great vessels of the chest or injury to the small bowel because we are expecting fracture at the back, and this could injure small bowel or could injure even the heart or the great blood vessels of the chest. We scanned her abdomen, her chest. Everything was clean with her except she had tenderness at the back, which we expect to find fracture, and we did find a fracture. The fracture is at the back, lower part of the back. It's not a bad kind of fracture, but the pain is bad. So we'll give her some medications to control her pain. And CT of the chest is normal, her heart is normal in the CT scan. The only concern for this lady is her heart rate is jumping high, and we could expect any element of contusion to the heart. We cannot exclude 100% that she doesn't have any elements from small contusion. And she will lie in the ICU for 24 hours, and then I'm sure she would be fine. It's just to be cautious more, because you can miss small cardiac contusions.
Though Barbara will go on to recover in the intensive care unit, her tests are all normal. Did her prayers help after all? Whether trauma evokes strongly held beliefs or spiritual change, the physical shock, if we survive, can serve as a wake-up call to alter the course of our lives. Will young Nicole take this opportunity? After falling nearly 7 stories, Nicole sustained extensive fractures that needed surgery. 2 weeks later in hospital, and the 16-year-old has had time to reflect with her family on what happened.
One of my girlfriends, like best friend, she wanted me to go see her, and they're like, come. I'm like, I can't. So I don't know what I was thinking. It was a lesson of peer pressure, I guess.
Actually, I didn't believe it. I said to my mom, I thought she was joking around, and she said no, she's in Sunnybrook, and I came here and I lost it. I couldn't believe it. She had tied all her clothes and her sheets together. Like when I saw her and they told me that, you know, her legs were broken, her feet, her back. I lost it. I fell. That was it.
Did you cry?
Yeah, of course I did. It was very hard, very frustrating. I just wanted, you know, them to come out and tell me that she was okay, everything was going to be fine. You know, I didn't know how bad her injuries were, you know how bad she had broke her back, you know, things going through my head, is she ever going to walk again, you know, like just really hard things. And when he came out and said that she was fine, it was like, you know, sort of a little smile on my face.
I consider myself lucky. Everybody says that I'm lucky.
You're very lucky.
Luck may not be paramount in the minds of hospital chaplains like Craig. He knows surviving a trauma is only half the battle in rebuilding a life that's taken some wrong turns.
Even with, you know, the recent waves of violence and the shootings in the city, has been very frustrating to the doctors, and you can see the anger on the staff, and people around get very agitated.
And one man ready to take up Craig's help along a new path is Patrick.
Because I got faith. This here, right here, this Bible right here. I've always had faith.
But there's no judgment I can ever make, because it's not my judgment to make. I'm an intermediary between the individual and God, and anything someone tells me is really between me and God.
He's cheated death after sustaining life-threatening bullet wounds and deadly infection in intensive care. Many weeks later, and it's still a long road ahead, but he's not doing it alone.
Gotta get my conscience clean with every single body I've done wrong. Everybody I try to remember who I sell drugs to. I've called their name, asked them forgiveness. Father, please help me. I did them wrong. I should have never started this.
I was waking up from the nightmare I was in all along. I don't cry in front of nobody. But nowadays, tears just come because everything is just, you know, trying to balance everything. But that devil keep pulling me back. Keep pulling me back. But no more. Now I'm stronger than before. I mean, the Father doesn't give you more than you can bear. And it's just one day at a time. Don't make nobody put no guns in your hand and tell us, yo, let's roll. Let them roll. And see what happens when they come back. They might not come back. And that's it.
Through my time in surgery, trauma surgery or other surgery, I probably have become a little bit more religious, because the things I have seen, and as good as we are and as amazing things that we do, some things you just see are determined from the beginning.